If people are still wondering if there's money in the industry, there's money in the industry. In fact, companies are really willing to hire writers.
You're listening to Article and Design Podcast, a podcast made with love for Filipino freelancers, small business owners, and digital agencies. I am your host, Margaret Sulapas. I am a digital marketing strategist for over 8 years now, and I created Article and Design. Be part of our 1 million mission in transforming 1 million Filipinos to becoming a super freelancer and live the life and work they love. Join me as I sit down and discuss with our fellow freelancers and business owners about their process, their monumental screw up, and the tips that they swear by to help you win in this freelance game forever. Welcome back to another episode of our Article and Design Podcast. I'm so excited today, guys, because our guest tonight is schoolmate ko ng college. So I feel nostalgic because at least there's a familiar face right now. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Yas Ocampo. So Yas, thank you so much for being here. Just a quick intro lang no, about you, but I'm pretty sure ikukwento mo naman mamaya. So Yas, guys, he is a freelance copywriter, and he specializes in construction and architecture. And of course, he also co-founded the Filipino Architect Facebook page.
So, hi, Margaret. I have just recently started a new phase into my life after like 15 years of being in journalism, marketing, advertising, public relations. I just basically decided to explore my talents and to make a living out of it. Especially since the pandemic, I'm now a freelance copywriter and based in Davao pa rin. But the difference is it's a lot different. I can tell you in detail how different it is, but it's so different because I really used to write articles based on like travels or interviews and basically an entire living made out of getting out of the house and talking to people. So it's different, and I guess it's that 2020 was the right time to start it. What else? I also in 2020 I also co-founded this Facebook page along with my very good friend, architect Glory Rose D. Metilio. So we called it Filipino Architect. It's a resource magazine. It has a Facebook page. It's also on filipinoarchitect.com. Um, it's a resource page for students of architecture and design. So, diba, similar to what you're doing. So yours is article and design, and what we're up to is architecture and design. Yeah. So um, we noticed that there's really nobody writing about heritage materials in the Philippines, and we wanted to illustrate that it's not really just the European, the American models that we can talk about when it comes to architecture, but there's also a rich source of material in our source. So, and here's a very particular example of that. The houses, when you think of a Filipino house, the first thing that comes into your mind is also it's most of the time the bahay kubo. I mean that can be true, but there's also another other different set of houses. In Mindanao alone, for example, there are like 9 or 10. That's in the Davao region or Davao City. So, um, Philippine Architect is really one of those sites that it's one of my passion projects now. Oh, that's the passion project. When you say passion project, it's more heart than wallet. So when it comes to the wallet, though, I have several projects. It's a lot different from what I used to do, and the pay is also different. And most of these things I can't really talk about because of the non-disclosure agreements. But let's just say I write for several clients as a ghostwriter, and I also tutor English students, students of English language. So yeah, that's more or less an idea of what I've been up to.
Nice. So, yeah, let me rewind you a bit. Yes, no, kasi sabi ko nga kanina, tituwa ako kasi may schoolmate ako. The nice thing about Yes and guys is he finished creative writing. Tapos, of course, guys, hindi ko pala nasabi, magkabanda kami. Shout out yung mga band members namin. So, see Yes, guys, he's on the guitars and vocals. And ako, if you don't know, I'm his drummer.
I also wanted to ask that. Do they know that you play the drums?
Yeah, they don't know. They only know the piano. Then the drums in there. So yeah, going back, sabi ko kanina, you're a creative writing graduate, diba? And I like yung naging trajectory ng career mo kasi you made a change or a shift into the freelance world. Parang ganun. So, dito, very interested ako sa question ko kasi, or sa answer mo. Kasi I myself, yung first course ko talaga sa UP is creative writing. Yan. So, kasi yun ang gusto ko. Kasi akala ko magaling ako na writer eh. Yan. Tapos nung bata ako, mahilig ako sulat ng poetry. So, gusto ko yung creative writing. So, yun yung inano ko talaga, in-enroll ko. Tapos, sinabi na ako ng parents ko, Yas, na, bakit yun ang course mo? Wala na akong pera dyan. sabi gano'n, parang, so that was like, ano bang time ko? That was 2002 eh. Diba? So, parang, hindi natin alam itong mga ganito eh, na may other ways to earn then as a writer. So, sinabi sa akin na, ba't yun ang course mo? Wala namang pera dyan. So, kailangan ko mag-shift ng biology kasi nga kailangan ko maging doktor. Kasi may pera doon. Diba? So, this is my question sa'yo as a creative writing graduate. What can you say about this? May pera ba o walang pera? And kung may pera, ano yung mga trabaho
Okay.
na pwedeng gawin?
Here's an idea of how much creative writing graduates or communication graduates are needed in the field. When I was still in Makati working for a knowledge processing outsourcing company, it was so difficult to hire writers. You can imagine how long it took for us to hire really great ones or really good ones, especially in the entry level ones, because it was so it even in 2009, for example, I was working already in 2009. It was so difficult to look for writers. That said, that's one company. That's just one company. If you can imagine the entire industry looking for writers, and this was before. I mean, you can imagine this was the days of rare job. Diba? Everyone was like teaching English language. Yeah, this was the era of rare job. The era of people support in Davao City. Yun yung ano, is it okay to mention brands or companies? Ito yun. And then people were always doing voice. They were doing, let's say, I mean, wala pa masyadong email support that time. But really what was lacking in the job market was writers. Napakahirap maghanap ng writer. And if we do get to hire, for example, people who passed the grammar test, or let's say if people wrote decent sentences, it was difficult to train because they had no background in piecing words together and then making magic out of it. Um, that's really what we do for a living. I've figured for the past 10, 15 years that I'm in the business of weaving words and making uh, a living out of it. And I guess the point there is a need until now for really good storytellers. And I guess that's where creative writing comes in. Because to be honest, while the training there is, of course, being exposed to different kinds of literature, so it's poetry, fiction, non-fiction, drama, I want to say only a minority of the graduates really end up doing that full time. But it's not something, it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, if people are still wondering if there's money in the industry, there's money in the industry. In fact, companies are really willing to hire writers and pay a lot for project based stuff. I mean, you can. I mean, I'm sure you're aware, and I'm sure you've already proved the parents wrong. that ano, yeah. So they left you alone. Parang ganun. No more nagging about being a doctor and stuff. And I hear the doctors. I mean, yeah, I'm loving how the doctors are. I had this conversation with my doctor the other day, also a batchmate of ours. And then he said,
Hi, Filipino freelancers. This is Margaret. I am a freelancer and a business owner. Let me tell you about a favorite tool I use to receive and send money overseas. I started to use this tool this year because of its lower fees than the other payment tools that I've been using. The tool is called Wise, or formerly known as TransferWise. Wise is an online account where you can send money abroad or get paid in other currencies. It is a lot cheaper than the other payment methods or platforms na nakasanayan natin, and there's no horror of your money being frozen or put on hold. It's a great payment tool sa tulad nating mga Filipino freelancers. For example, Ako, as a freelancer, I live in Australia and I have a client in the UK. So what I do is I connect my Wise account in my invoicing app and I can receive the money in my currency fast and with lower fees. And as a business owner myself then, I send money to the freelancers in the Philippines and they don't get charged with ridiculous international fees. Most of all, it's free to create your Wise account. So you can open different currencies and can even order your own debit card and use that account to get paid or shop online sa mga tools na kailangan mo as a freelancer. Go to articleondesign.com/wise and learn more on how you can use this as a Filipino freelancer and save tons from international fees. After all, you've worked so hard and you deserve that money. So, paano gamitin ng Wise and paano mag-open ng Wise? Just go to articleondesign.com/wise and follow the steps in how you can use it now.
It's also a different. Obviously, it's a difficult time to be a doctor, and financially, the doctors are having a difficult time right now. Aside from the health hazard of the pandemic, if they're also facing a financial difficulty, like parang, di ba, it's a terrible time to be a doctor on different fronts. But
Well, yun nga, tama ka. Na-prove ko sa parents ko na, hey, no, may pera. May pera dito. Yeah. And I like what you said, yes, dun sa, may need talaga eh. And then, may kulang yung mga writers na magagaling. I could really attest to that, yes. Kasi like, I work with companies before. So, nahanap talaga sila ng writer. Kasi yung writer kasi, yun yung bumubuo ng content eh. Nung website, bumubuo ng content ng mga publications nila, ng mga promotions, ng blogs nila. Even nung 2012, hirap din kami actually eh. Maghanap ng writer na yung nako-convey talaga yung info na gusto sabihin ng company. Ganon. So, yeah. That's why I like what you said na, hey, parang it's a myth. We can say it's a myth na walang pera dyan. I wish nakausap ka ng father ko nung sinabi niya sa akin yun.
and then, in terms of parents, I guess it was I was lucky having parents who never really questioned my decisions. In fact, they never really cared what course I took. Di ba, I don't know if you know this, but I used to be Soksai and then Antro and then be English, and then I decided I really want to try honing my writing skills.
Then I remember before, ang galing mo. But anyways, sige.
So I really in the field I can take that, like I don't mind admitting that I'm really a good copywriter. I can present myself as as a passable copywriter, especially for niche crowds like industry like architecture and what do you call this, construction. Because I found a niche that I can, it's lucrative for one, and they realized, my clients in the field realized that, hey, we need to tell a story and we need to know how to do this. Because if you say, one client um, thought that the idea of selling is just saying, oh, we are providing this service, and then they give you a list of 10 to 15 products. And then I realized, are you sure you want to do it that way? Because from my experience, clients do not read. Diba? Clients don't have time to open your brochure and then just, they don't have time to read yung mga ganito kaliliit na font. Diba? So,
Yeah.
I showed them what I could do. So, okay, so tell me what you can, tell me your experience. Sige, and then let's give an example. There was an architect in the team, so I said, okay, so instead of saying that this person is certified with these certifications, blah blah blah, and then the list of 10 things, I said, architect so and so has an innate ability to translate human interaction into the design of her works. So they were so impressed because they didn't think of it that way, and that was exactly what they want. Yung parang, I dare say that the construction industry is a really lucrative market, especially since it's only really minority lang talaga sa construction industry ang marunong magsulat. And at the same time, sa writing naman, minority lang din ang marunong mag-translate ng construction language into storytelling. So really, I like, if I had all the resources, I would focus on that a lot kasi I'd make a killing out of it. Diba?
Yes, totoo. I totally agree with that. Yes, because we also have a construction client. And sobrang hirap and then maghanap ng writer for that. It took us a while, actually. And you're right, it's very lucrative. Yeah, so guys, it's clear and crystal na may pera eh. When it comes to writing in general, di ba?
You know what the best example of construction writing is? Transformers. These are robots made of construction equipment, di ba? I mean, it's really it's weird to look at it that way, but that's exactly how you should think when you're a construction writer. So,
Yeah.
I mean, robots and aliens aside, the idea that you can tell stories out of robots made of machinery, it's actually, diba, it's staring you right in the face. You can tell stories based on buildings, for example, or pathways or walkways. Right now, another passion project of mine, by the way, is also construction and urban design. It's called the Bike Lane Project. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's really our way to popularize the bike lanes in Davao City. It's a project with my partner, Jenny Arada, and it's really something that we decided to to popularize because the wrong way to talk about bike lanes is just to say that there are bike lanes of this length and this width. Why not talk about the balut vendor who is carrying the balut every night or every day and having a safe passageway to get to run the business? That's storytelling, and it's really an underrated skill in today's society. But when you come to think of it, we are in the best position to change that mindset. When you say storyteller, the storyteller is in the best position to um, describe history, for example, or describe how things like bike lanes are shaping the way Davaoenos are being introduced to sustainable transportation. So, these are all construction stuff. These are all,
Yeah.
diba? It just sounds so intimidating because everyone, when you say engineering, construction, it's all math, physics, chemistry, and of course, I don't know how to do that. But when you come to think of it, if I had known that like series like Breaking Bad or CSI would be so cool when I was younger, I would have studied more. I would have wanted to understand how DNA operates. I'm sure you do because of your bio experience and stuff. And that's I want to talk about that too. Kasi ang daya ng mga ganun. The writers that I envy are the people who are actually experts in other fields. For example, like doctors who write. My favorite writer is a doctor, so
Yeah.
si Oliver Sacks. He's a neurologist who writes really well. So, ang daya nun, di ba? So this is like, it matches two different things. It matches scientific expertise, and it matches along with storytelling. And if you combine those skills
Exactly.
together, that's the answer to the question. Like, how do you make money out of writing? But you know what the other answer to that is? Live life. Diba? If you live life, you learn, and then that's the most concrete of things. Like, if you live your life enough, if you learn from this enough, if you make mistakes, if you get educated with all these things, like in my case, construction and architecture, you will know how to tell that story. You will talk about the bahay kubo or the different kinds of houses in Mindanao by just saying that it's made of wood, diba? It's not that. You can talk about it a different way. Like for example, in one of the houses, the center of the house acts as a sleeping area and a place where the family can share stories of the hunt or the interactions with with different cultures. So there's really a lot of ways to tell stories, and I just figured out kasi that when you leave an industry like journalism, for example, it's the terrain is larger and it's less limiting, and I guess it was about time that I explore a new field.
Yes, welcome to the field of storytelling or freelance copywriting. We need more people like you, yung mga storytellers talaga. So, yeah, thank you for validating that, yes. Mas maganda na narinig nila sa'yo eh. So, we're talking about yung storytelling process mo and how you convey information based off sa isang construction company, etc. So, what is your writing process? Kahit yung simpleng parang system. What is your writing process ba? Kasi in our community kasi, yes, we have a lot of aspiring writers.
I have to focus on a niche that I'm actually an expert in because I feel that with respect to the expertise of everyone here, I have to say that I'm a beginner. I'm a beginner in the freelancing world, but I've written for 15 years. So that's just to have it out there. When you talk about construction and architecture and translating it into a story that you can appreciate another way. There are so many things like there are so many inspirations that you can make out of it. Like um, for example, if you talk about equipment, it's not just equipment. Eh. For me, I want to talk about like an example that's applicable across Australia, US, and the Philippines. Um, Maybe a tractor, di ba? Sige, let's talk about a tractor. When you talk about a tractor, it's not really just a vehicle that pulls equipment, di ba? It allows the farm to function with the least effort possible. Because otherwise, without the tractor, you would have had like 10 to 15 people exerting a lot of effort just to pull this one heavy thing. With the tractor and maybe a cart, you can do that faster, di ba? You can carry lumber, you can diba? You can carry hay in case of the more Western examples. You can do a lot more with these things. And another good example is the way Cars, the animated movie, they showed tractors as cows. That's a really good example of a metaphor for equipment like that because diba? I had never thought of these things as animals, but when you come to think of it, they are also beasts of burden. Parang ang cute siya na, ano eh. Cute siya na example. Pero so, I guess that's the answer to my process. Yeah, the idea of knowing these things and knowing how to compare these things in another language. That's really where the creative writing comes in. Because otherwise, we would have just said that the tractor is this high or this is made of blank horsepower. Diba? That's the boring way to do it. But I can say that literally, this tractor can literally move mountains. That's another way of using language. Diba? Stuff like that. Although I doubt if there's actually a tractor that can move a mountain.
Who knows? But if we're trying to use a metaphor, so eye-catching yun eh. Diba? Pag nabasa nila yun eh. Hey, a tractor that can move mountains. Although you're new to freelancing world, but you have like 15 years experience sa writing mismo, per se. Ang ginawa mo is you chose a niche and you owned it eh. Diba? Mm-hmm. So what do you mean you owned it? So everything that you're writing about and everything that you're talking to me right now is all about construction and architecture related eh. Right? So I really could feel na you have specialized dun talaga sa field na yun. So that's one of the things na sinasabi ko sa mga freelancers, yes, na when you apply for a job, you don't say, I'm a health or a fitness writer. You know, you don't just say that. I'm a writer for female Pilates coaches. Diba? So that's niching down eh. And then that's the nice thing about niching down. Kasi you become a purple cow, kumbaga. So parang, hey, we need a construction writer or architecture writer. I think Yes is writing about yung mga ganito ganyan. So nagkakaroon ka ng USP. It's like your unique selling point as a writer. I like yung ganun na approach mo, Yes. Then, alam mo yung cliche na sinasabi, the riches are in the niches. It's gonna be lucrative, not only because it's construction, but because you niche down eh. So the riches are in the niches. You've been in this industry for 15 years, as we've discussed earlier. And then I'm pretty sure na kasi you've been a reporter before, a journalist. Ang dami mo nang na-meet eh. People from different paths or different careers, and you've worked with big names and industries. So this is my question sa'yo. So based sa experience mo, Yes, yung journey mo, what is one Filipino culture that you think is detrimental to growth natin as professional freelancers? And then, after that, ano yung makakatulong? Hey, do you want to become a super freelancer? A super freelancer is a highly paid, creative, happy, and globally competitive freelancer. If you want to become one, you can enroll in our Super Freelancers course, 21 Steps to Fast Track Your Freelancing Business. We will teach you how to create systems, automate some of your workload, and how to avoid the feast and famine situation of chasing clients after clients. So go to autonomouldesigncourses.com and use the coupon code PODCASTFRIEND to get your 400 pesos discount. This is exclusive to our podcast listeners only. So see you there.
Okay. One really detrimental thing that I notice among Filipinos is the way we think we already know what will happen next. Like, for example, it was my generation that fell into that idea that nursing and medicine was really the way to go. And I'm guessing it was your batch that started it. I hear you guys were like ahead of me 1 year. Diba? But when you and then along the way it had a lot of trouble because there was too many nurses. There were too many nurses, too many doctors, and too few jobs. And then yeah, when I said that I was having a difficulty hiring writers, that's also true because nobody thought that writing was lucrative. So, di ba? If you ask me, I wouldn't mind like if I had a kid and that person was still deciding what to do with life, I would just ask, "What's your interest? What would you like to do? Is it music? Is it like engineering? Would you like to be an engineer?" Because I wouldn't force my kid to be an engineer. And he's terrible at math, for example. Di ba? Why? I mean, that's just my personal take. I'm sure there have been success stories, and that I wouldn't want to antagonize all these other parents with successful children and whatever. But my idea really is I wouldn't want to do a passion project on the side, parang as a beginning, di ba? As a beginning worker. I would rather that I put all the passion I have into work that pays well. That makes more sense than just being part of a workforce system that like rewards you because of you're capable of doing it without regard for your interest. But that's just me. That's just me being idea. But look at us. Diba? We're still writers. We're still at home. We're still introverts. Pero diba, that's one example. Parang it's one way of saying that we were right. We chose the right paths. We didn't need to become lawyers or doctors or whatever people believe would be lucrative. That's really a mistake. If you ask me, I've also believed I've also come to a realization that you can never predict what job you will have based on your course alone. Because when you ask any writer, for example, not all of us became writers. By the way, some of us became um, farmers. There's one of us who became a farmer, and I'm a farmer. Pero diba, that's another story. My idea is you can really predict your future based on a course, especially if that's all you're relying on. Parang I would rather that you just go out into the world and decide what you want to become along the way. Because I'm from experience, it usually just it figures itself out. There is a system called parang yung regard towards others is both our strength and weakness. Parang people think that di ba, when people try to tell you what to do, you mistake it sometimes as you're interfering with my life. To them, that's regard to your welfare. That can be a good thing and that bit can be a bad thing. But I guess what we need to figure out is really the boundaries. Like, what do I want to do? And would you be okay with me just making a mistake at this particular industry? Like, if the kid wants to like, be a tattoo artist, why are you stopping this kid from that's also a lucrative market, by the way. Diba? People don't know that even parents are gonna raise eyebrows. Like, diba? Why would you want to be a tattoo artist? But like, Dad, do you know how much each tattoo costs? Parang ganun. Whatever your belief, it has to like match what you want to do and what you're good at. If diba? And I cannot stress this enough. You have to be rewarded for it as well. Kasi mahirap din naman kung magaling ka, marunong ka, and you're in the job and you're not being rewarded well. Diba? So, that's also the reason why most of us are doing freelance work and having outside clients instead of just trying to cultivate an ecology of, of sustainable editorial markets. But that's all I can say about that. Okay.
Yeah, wow. Parang ano yes parang dapat after this production, dapat isend ko to sa tatay ko eh. Diba? Send ko to sa tatay ko eh. Para, hey, look, this is a creative writing person. Listen. Ayun, ni-raise mo na, gusto mo yung child mo maging engineer, ano pala kung ayaw niya, diba? Or hindi siya magaling sa math. Diba?
I know you know that you can't force anybody to love math unless you like. I mean, in that case, I learned to love math by looking at it as another language. But if you could still insist on the X advice, it's really gonna be difficult for me to understand or love that. I learned math along the way, pero another story na rin yun altogether. But the idea is you can't force somebody who isn't programmed for any of this to be good at that. And then you're gonna, you know, for example, the kid wants to be part of a band. Pero bagsak siya sa kanyang mga math test. So, tapos sasabihin ng parent, oh, we can't buy you a guitar because you're failing at math. There's a lot of, diba? There's a lot of questions to those, to that kind of thinking. But again, this is just me being ideal, and I, 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 I wouldn't mind being corrected by anybody, diba? But that's the difference. I'm okay. I wouldn't mind being corrected.
No, I actually agree with you, Yas. Kasi Exhibit A, diba? So, I agree with you. Kasi yung nasa BS Biology ako before, sobrang parang everyday was like dragging talaga siya. Ano yun, pinipilit ko yung sarili ko talaga sa laboratory. Imagine we were on lab for 5 hours, diba, a day. Tapos like hindi ka pwedeng mag-Havaianas or chanelas doon. Dapat naka-shoes ka talaga kasi yung mga, diba, pwede ka ma-accident. So ako, gusto ko mag-chanelas lang noon diba? So, ang dami. Tapos parang I felt like I don't belong here. Tapos lagi ako nandun sa kabila, sa admin, sa arts and humanities.
Oh yeah, that explains a lot. you were with us a lot.
Oo, nandun talaga ako lagi kahit wala akong klase. Nakisit in ako sa mga subjects nyo. Oo. So, nandun ako lagi kasi, yeah, I'm actually having a hard time sa bio na I'm pushing myself doon. Pero kasi sabi ng parents ko or sabi ng tatay ko na hindi, kailangan mo maging doctor. Ganun. Maging doctor. Okay, sige, push na. Pero, yeah, I graduate ako. But after that, sabi ko, no, this is wrong. I'm not gonna do this if I don't want to do this, diba?
Okay, so how about law school? So it's my turn na, no? By the way, this is simulcast over the Yas show.
Yeah, this is another story. In law school. Next time we can talk about it. So yeah, but that's another story. Pero, yun nga, I like what you said now. Huwag pilitin kung hindi talaga doon. Diba? And let the person or diba, kid nila or even you as yourself, huwag mo pilitin na gawin mo yung web design kung ang gusto mo pala is writing. So, it goes the same sa mga freelancers. Huwag natin pilitin na maging graphic designer tayo kung ang gusto pala natin is maging writers. I like that you emphasize that, yes. And thank you for sharing that with us. So, wow. Ayoko pa umalis. But, do we need to end this?
I mean, we're the kind of people that has to say we have to end this conversation because if we don't say it out loud, we'd like probably talk for 3 hours or something. But that's a good thing.
Exactly.
I guess one of the last things I'm gonna say is I'm also an advocate though. I mean, as much as I say that writers should learn the other disciplines, for example, engineering, architecture, sciences, for example. As much as I say that, as much as I advocate that you follow your heart or whatever, I would also no longer reject any mix and match of skills. For example, the most difficult subject, I'm sure you understand this very well. The most difficult subject for me, the subject that almost didn't get me graduating was bio, Gamboa. So it's MSc2, I think. And then, because the idea there was, I didn't know anything about it. And then afterwards, like 5 or 6 years later, Professor Gamboa became one of my sources during a story about the release of Cedar Books. It was so embarrassing to have to ask her, like, so, ma'am, ano po yung life cycle ng turtle? And then she laughed, and then I said, okay po, I should have listened to you during class. Because, my point there is, you're gonna need all this information because, look at us now. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and I feel that if the storytellers really would push their maximum potentials, they would tell the story better. They would ask more like richer questions, and God willing, this will all be over soon. But it's gonna take a lot
So, yes, thank you so much for spending time with me. And I hope to, alam mo yun, to see you someday para makapag-play naman tayo ulit. Yeah. I miss playing the drums, to be honest.
Let's figure that out. I think we have to figure that out. Like I want to, and then everyone else is just waiting. You know what? I haven't finished our recording thing, but then after I started fiddling with that, I just realized I'm never gonna pirate anything again. It's so difficult to mix and match. It's so difficult to mix music. It's so difficult. I don't know how to do this, but I mean, let's figure that out.
Yeah, we will. And we have to, dapat in person talaga din sana, diba? Yeah. Yeah. So, shout out to our bandmates. So, for sure, si Kakay probably she's listening. Si Marius. Tsaka si, Gina. Yeah.
On a more personal note, I have a podcast that I started last year. It's a personal podcast I call the Yas Show. It's like a play on one of the Parokya ni Edgar songs. I wouldn't claim it as my as my original thing. It's really a nod to Parokya ni Edgar. They have a song called the Yes Show, and you know. So yun, that's how you can reach me.
So guys, we're gonna add the links here dun sa mga projects ni Yes, and you can check it out. And I really suggest if you're from Davao and listening to this podcast, please check out the Filipino Architect and the Bike Lane. And please continue what you're doing because we need more great storytellers like you. So yes, thank you once again, and we will see you. So group, Yes is a member of our community, guys. Sa Article on Design. So if you have any questions sa kanya, or if you want to collaborate with him, just tag him, Yas Ocampo. Nandun siya. Or chase him dun sa kanyang mga podcast. Alright. So thank you once again, Yes, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye guys, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a review on our Facebook page, Article and Design. Please also follow us on our YouTube channel called Article and Design for more tips on freelancing and business. And if you want to go to the next level, check out our courses at articleanddesigncourses.com. See ya!